Welcome back. Today is Sunday and day 3 of the 3 medium format cameras in 3 days kind of mini series. Today we're looking at probably a much more popular camera, and that is the Mamiya 645. Before we start, if you're new to the channel, I'm Matt Osborne, a UK portrait photographer, and I blog on the mrleica.com blog. I post 2 videos on YouTube every week, and then I try and post on Patreon most days when I can. So as mentioned, today we're looking at the Mamiya 645, and in particular the Mamiya 645 Super, which is this camera. But stay with me and I'll also show you how this camera compares to the Hasselblad, the RZ and the earlier Mamiya 1000S. If, like me, you're a keen film photographer, please take a second to hit the like button, and then that tells the YouTube algorithm to share this video to the wider film community. Hopefully then others can benefit from this content. Much appreciated. Let's get started. I should probably also mention, if you're new to this channel, I specialise in female portraiture, so this video is going to have plenty of female portraits shot with the Mamiya 645. That's a little teaser to stay with me till the end of the video. Okay, so what can I tell you about the Mamiya 645 cameras? They're in production from 1975 right through to 2006, so there are quite a few different versions. In this particular video I'll show you the 2 versions that I use, or the 2 versions that I have. So one of the early cameras is the Mamiya 645 1000S, which is this camera. Sorry, I've stolen the lens off it. So this is a more basic model. It has the prism finder. These are modular cameras, I'll show you in a second. So this is removable, but take note, the earlier models do not have a interchangeable film back. I'll explain what that is in a second. So this is an early model. It's all metal, 1000S. Pro tip, if you're looking for some of the nice lenses that you can get for the Mamiya system, by buying the older models, sometimes you get the lens with the camera. I only bought this camera for the lens, so I've never actually used this particular camera. I'm not sure if this actually works, but feel free to write to me and I'll happily sell it to you. Okay, so that's a 1000S early version. And then the Christmas present to myself in December 2014 was this. This is the beautiful Mamiya 645 Super. So this is a plastic composite body rather than an all metal body like the 1000S. I mentioned a second ago these cameras are modular cameras, meaning you can take off the lens, the viewfinder and the film back. So if we now take a closer look at the camera itself, here it is again from a different view. So unlike the 645 cameras we looked at over the last 2 days, the Fuji GA645 and the Fuji GS645, still got them down here. This is an interchangeable back camera and interchangeable lens camera, making it much more of a system camera and bringing with it many more benefits. So for example, you can take off the film back like so, and then that means you can have multiple film backs. So here's an example. There's a spare film back insert, so I can load one film back up with black and white film, one film back with colour film, and then shoot both films during the same photo shoot. That gives you much more versatility than the Fuji 645 cameras, where you cannot change the film halfway through the roll. So interchangeable film back. You can see there the shutter on the back of the camera. You just clips back in. So that's the back of the camera. Then these cameras, again like a Hasselblad, have the standard waist level viewfinder, which folds flat when not in use. Waist level viewfinders can be a lot of fun because they give you a completely different perspective, because instead of shooting at eye level, you're looking down, which means it's a different experience both for yourself and for whoever you're photographing. Because there's something like street photography, if you're looking down at the camera, it's much easier to photograph people in the street because you feel like you're not looking directly at them, so you feel you can get closer to them. In addition to the waist level finder, you can remove this, like so, and then you can fit a prism finder. So let me put that on. So now you have it set up with a prism finder. So now you're shooting it at eye level. So this is closer to my Hasselblad H2 setup. If you've not seen that, I'll link the video below. But you're basically shooting it at eye level like many cameras. One big advantage of the prism finder is the film is 645 film, I should have mentioned that. in horizontal orientation, meaning if you want to shoot portraits, you need to turn the camera onto the side. So if I want to shoot a vertical portrait of you, I'll be shooting it like this. Now if you try and do this with a waist level finder, it's not quite so easy. I personally prefer the waist level viewfinder because it gives me a clearer image for when I'm critically focusing my portraits. So that's the normal view of the prism finder. Then you press a button, and now can you see it's popped up a magnifier. So personally I shoot everything with the magnifier. So if I was shooting horizontal portraits, I'd shoot like this. And then for vertical portraits, it's a bit weird because it's upside down and back to front. So like that. So that's how weird you look if you're trying to photograph someone in portrait orientation with the waist level finder. I still prefer it to the prism finder because, as I say, it's easy to critically focus with the clearer display with the waist level finder. Okay, so that's finders. Next you can use extension tubes to get your lens closer to your subject, meaning you can focus closer than the minimum focus distance on your lens. Again, as a portrait photographer, this is really important to me. So anybody with a keen eye will see I've actually got a extension tube fitted at the moment. And all it is a washer that fits between the camera and the lens. Nothing particularly scientific. And then what this allows me to do is I can then focus much closer with the standard lenses. So this 110mm lens on the camera at the moment is crazy sharp. It's a really good lens. I'll talk about lenses a bit more in a second. So extension tubes, again another benefit of a system camera. There are so many add-ons which improve your kind of user experience. You can get grips that come out the side like this with auto winders. There were so many accessories released over the period of these cameras' kind of lifespan. Okay, if we talk about the Mamiya 645 lenses for a second, as I say, this is the 110 f2.8 lens. I did a lot of research to try to find the best lenses for my taste, that being sharp lenses and or great portrait lenses. I use the 55mm standard lens for like a wider shot for maybe street photography or landscape photography and wedding photography. I use the standard 80mm f2.8 kit lens, really nice and sharp, really small, really lightweight. I use the 80mm 1.9 vintage lens. That's the fastest lens in the lineup and will give you kind of the best subject background separation and the nicest bokeh. I use the 110 we just looked at, and then I also use a special lens which is a 70mm leaf shutter lens which allows me to sync flash at much higher flash sync speeds. I'll talk about that in a second. If you want me to do a video on the lenses with example photos from each lens, drop me a message in the comment because I'm trying to keep this video shorter. But safe to say there are some very nice lenses for this system and there are 10 times more lenses than just the few I just mentioned. But I think those are some of the best from kind of my own research. So in terms of camera spec, the Mamiya 645 is a battery operated camera. You can see the battery compartment on the base. It either takes one PX28 or 4 of the standard LR44 coin batteries. So just looking at some of the basics, it has a flash sync speed of 1/60 and also it has a manual speed of 1/60, meaning if you have no battery in the camera will still work, but only with a shutter speed of 1/60. So it's quite a useful shutter speed to have if you were to use it without a battery, which I've done before and it works no problem. You have shutter speeds from bulb all the way up to a maximum of 1/1000. And then you have various other settings like mirror lockup. You have a hot shoe, which is useful, PC sync port. You've got the shutter release button on the front of the camera. To release the lens, you pull back this button and twist. And there you can see the mirror inside the camera. The Mamiya 645 is quite beginner friendly, so for example you can't take a photo with the dark slide in place, so you need to remove the dark slide, and then equally you cannot remove the back until the dark slide is back in the camera. So if you try and take the back off, you can't do it, and then that stops you kind of wrecking your film. For anybody new to the Mamiya 645, when you're not using a dark slide, you can store it neatly in the back of the camera like so, which is a nice design. And then obviously make sure you then put it back into the camera when you finish taking your photos. Okay, in terms of size and weight, the Mamiya 645 Super weighs 895 grams without the lens. Obviously the lenses all weigh different amounts. Now if you compare that to the Mamiya RZ, That weighs 2.4 kilos with lens attached. Would you like to see how compact this camera is compared to some of the other popular cameras? Okay, so first we have Mamiya 645 Hasselblad. So you can see the Mamiya is slightly smaller than the Hasselblad. It's also slightly lighter. One main difference is the Hasselblad is 6x6. If you've not seen those videos already, I'll try and link those below. And then for the big difference, you see me going, ugh. Mamiya 645 baby, Mamiya RZ67 daddy. So again, the Mamiya 645 and the 6x7 RZ. Quite a bit smaller, much nicer to carry around all day. Again, if you've not seen the RZ video, I'll link it below. So just in terms of the cameras we looked at yesterday, Mamiya, Fuji. But look at this, look how small the Fuji is from the side. That is a real benefit of these small Fuji cameras. Both these cameras are obviously 645 format, giving you the same size film negatives, but if you're traveling, this is the camera you want for travel, not this. If you shoot portraits, this, not this. This camera can be used as a proper portrait camera because of the interchangeable lenses and all the other benefits it brings. Okay, so now if I've whet your appetite for the Mamiya 645, you may want to know how much it costs. Now I have excellent news for you. The Mamiya 645 is one of the most affordable entry points into the medium format kind of world. And unlike some of the vintage film cameras which I've looked at in the past, say the Perkio 6x6 or the 6x9 folding cameras, those cameras are cheaper, but they are not beginner friendly and they are not suitable for many applications. The Mamiya 645 is a perfect beginner camera. Anybody kind of wanting to step up their game from 35mm and try out medium format, and has some great built-in functionality which allows you to do most types of photography. So how much does it cost, I hear you ask? Now just to give you a benchmark, the Hasselblad that we just looked at, they're around £850 to £900. The Mamiya RZ67, again £850 to £900. The Mamiya 645, which offers the same interchangeable lenses, backs, prisms, £300 to £350 on eBay, looking in Europe. That's almost 3 times cheaper than a Hasselblad or the RZ. That's seriously great value for money. Not only that, because it's 645, it gives you 15 frames per roll, meaning it's more economical to use as well, because the RZ, for example, gives you 10 shots per roll. The Hasselblad will give you 12 shots per roll, 15 photos per roll, meaning with the cost of film increasing, this is much more of an affordable camera to use as well as own. So the big tick in the box for the affordability of the 645. So in terms of use, as I say, this camera will do pretty much anything you want it to do. You can do macro photography with the right adapters, you can do street photography, you can do wedding photography. It's really great for portraits. Travel photography may be slightly weaker because you can pick up the smaller medium format cameras which are better suited for travel because they pack smaller in your bag. But it will still do travel photography, you just need a very slightly bigger bag, so it's not a big issue. Who would I recommend the Mamiya 645 to? I'd definitely recommend it to anybody wanting to test the waters of medium format photography and want a camera which is very user friendly. As I say, there are cheaper medium format cameras. For example, some of the TLR cameras would be cheaper, such as my roller cord. Again, if you've not seen the video, just search roller cord on my playlist. The vintage folding cameras, they're one of the cheapest ways to get into medium format, but again, they have many quirks and a lot of limitations in terms of they won't do a lot of the types of photography that this camera will do. If you've never tried medium format, it is a big step up if you've only ever shot 35mm. I highly recommend every photographer owning at least one medium format film camera, because you don't know what you're missing until you've tried it. Once you've got one, like me, you can then decide whether the 35mm is the best camera for that day, or medium format, or even large format. As mentioned in the previous videos over the last few days, 645 gives you 3 times more image kind of real estate size, giving you much more detailed negatives, you get better tonality, and there are quite a few extra benefits to be had with medium format. These cameras take 120 or 220 film, depending on the film back that you use, and you can also get a 35mm back as well. I don't actually have that back. So to conclude the 3 645 cameras I covered this weekend, which one is best for you? I would say look at the GA 645. if you want a point and shoot or fully automated camera, if that's your thing. I'd get the GS645 if you prefer full manual rangefinder cameras and still want 645 negatives. And then for everybody else, I'd recommend the Mamiya 645, hence it is such a popular camera and had such a long production run. They didn't make this camera for 30 years for nothing. Let me know in the comments which of these three cameras do you prefer, or do you prefer another camera? Personally, my favourite is the Hasselblad H2 for 645 format, but I do like the small folding cameras for kind of a travel camera. If you've not yet liked this video, please take a second to hit the like button. It really helps me out and it's very much appreciated. And if you've not yet subscribed, let me tell you, I have maybe between 6 and 10 more medium format cameras to come if you're into your medium format cameras. I still haven't started large format cameras, including one with the aerorectile lens on, so that's worth subscribing for in its own. And then obviously if you enjoy 35mm or Leica, I have tons more videos, lenses, vintage 35mm, modern Leica gear, lots to come on those topics. That's all I've got for you. I've tried to keep it shorter. I haven't checked the clock. Hopefully it is shorter. Thanks for staying with me if you stayed till the end. I hope you all have an amazing day, whatever you're doing, and a big thanks to my patrons. See you back here next week with 2 more new videos. Thanks for watching. Bye.